it's an opportunity for me just to express myself. Whether someone likes it or don't like it, it doesn't really matter. I'm just expressing myself, and I'm giving my mind a different thing to think about versus thinking about the numbers or thinking about the strategy.
And we're live. I am Bradley Charbonneau, representing Storyhouse Works here, and I am here today with S.A. Grant. Nice to see you.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. We are both part of an anthology called Unexpected Gifts that was put out by Hannah Huber and Storyhouse Works. And I have a piece in there, and S.A. has a piece in there. And today we're going to talk about his piece, which is called The Glitch in My Code. And I'm representing Storyhouse Works here. I'm doing an interview, by the way, a little teaser. I'm doing an interview with all of the contributors to the book. And I don't know how many there are. What are there? 15, 20? I'm not even sure anymore.
It's like 18, 19, something. It's called
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, welcome, welcome. And just as another little teaser, if you like this whole idea of an anthology, of being a part of a bigger thing, we're going to have some more information on how you, dear viewer, dear listener, there are some possibilities to potentially be a contributor to an upcoming anthology also hosted by Storyhouse Works. So let's get into S.A. Grant's The Glitch in My Code. Could you first give us a little, just maybe a little background on you, and then how did this story, what was the process also with Hannah, and how did she approach you, and then why this story?
Well, I think she didn't approach me. I think it kind of goes into what we were talking about, me moving over to the Netherlands from the US.
Yeah,
And I kind of had this storyline in my mind or in my third eye of things that I wanted to achieve on a global scale. So I approached her at the event that you and I met at. And that
that's
just
right.
kind of led
Yeah,
into becoming on her email list. And then that email followed up. And I was just like, the process of believing and achieving whatever it is that you see becomes a reality because an email came in and it says we're looking for writers, looking for authors, and then I
yeah,
just jumped on it, took action, and took advantage of it. Going into like my story, it's one of those things like if you're like a diehard worker bee in the sense of you're trying to build a business and you're willing to work the 23 hours out of 24 hours every single day, kind of like more so the Western culture mentality, you'll burn out, right? So I
yeah.
did that. I was a single dad and I was getting all this, not necessarily education through education portal. I have my degrees, but I was more so hands-on. Like if I wanted to learn more about money management and insurance, I became an insurance agent. If I wanted to learn more about
Wow.
traveling, I became a travel agent. And I did these different things for a period of time while also being a full-time single dad, which meant that there's Boy Scouts, right? There's basketball and
Yeah.
crazy butt decided to get into the PTA and I became PTA president as well. So
Oh,
all
oh,
these things,
really?
yeah, yeah. So
My,
all
my
these,
wife was PTA president.
yeah,
Even as the husband of the PTA president, I know firsthand how much unbelievable work that is.
yeah.
Unreal.
You might as well be a governor of a state when you're on that level, right? So I mean, it's so much that
At
goes into it, so much kissing babies, shaking hands, and negotiating contracts behind the scenes that people don't know
least the
about.
governor gets paid.
Governor gets paid, right? So you're doing this pro bono. So I mean, obviously, everything I just said
Wow.
sounds like a lot because it is a lot. And then you have
Yeah.
these long days and these long nights, and then you have the turmoil of ex-wives, turmoils of kid in school, turmoil of just life,
Yeah.
all of your business, all these things just compounded over a period of time. And then unfortunately, I had one of those like the big D's, right? So you're looking at death, you know, or a close version of death, divorce, which I went through as well, and then you're looking at debt, right? So in my case, I almost died because I didn't know what I didn't necessarily know I was dying until it actually happened. So like this story kind of depicts it in a somewhat of a comical sense, but at the same time, it's if you like the movie The Matrix, if you understand that we may be in a simulation and all these different things and different variables of the world that we live in today, that's what that story kind of unpacks. And like you said, in a short 5 pages.
So all of this happened without giving away too much, because of course we want people to go read the story and read the book
Yep.
and buy the book. And you can buy the book at storyhouseworks.com. But the glitch was the glitch in the type the glitch in my code was the glitch then was a glitch is like I see it visually. It's like the TV zaps out and you get bzzz. And was that then this event, this this medical emergency that happened? Is that what you're saying the glitch was?
Yeah, I look at the glitch kind of like what you're saying. If you want to take it to like analog, right? It's a record that
Yeah.
keeps skipping, right? It's a cassette tape that all
Okay.
the tape comes out, and it's like it was working fine, and then all of a sudden it's not working, right? So if you want to look at
Yeah.
you're watching a YouTube video and it starts to buffer and it starts to stutter, like that's the glitch. It's like what's going on? Nothing has changed
Mm.
at my end, but obviously something in the infrastructure is either broken or delayed. It was some kind of resonance of like negative frequency that just happened at that moment in time to where I literally was facing death at that point in time without going into great detail of what this story is about. Well, just to say I woke up in the hospital at the end of it and I was like, where am I? What happened?
You know, you're so visual. You have really a way with words, as they say. But I'm a very visual person, so I kind of see everything. But then but depending on the words I get as the intake, it creates my visual or not, right? And you just said you had several things. You had the uh, the the audio, then you had the cassette tape, which only certain people are going to understand that one, and
Correct.
then you had a then you had the like the YouTube or Netflix is buffering, right? This is a
Yep.
little twirling little icon. And that one really hits home for me because you're like you said, wow, you put it so beautifully. You said nothing changed on my end. I'm just here a viewer. I'm watching the thing. And wait, I didn't change anything. And sure enough, it's glitching out and it's buffering. And in a crazy way, but this is also very relevant. There's nothing I can do about it or nothing that I know what to do about it. And this is what happened in your wow, that really sort of drives it home visually for me in a scary and painful way. Because if I'm just waiting for Netflix, I can handle it. But this is like your life that went into buffer.
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
again, I'm trying to jump between, we're talking about X generation, Y generation, Z generation. So for the
Yeah.
older generation, it's the blue screen of death for Windows, right? On the new generation, your iPhone is frozen, right? So it's just kind of understanding these different variables. And to your point, it's life, right? I think a lot of people go day to day doing what they're doing every single day, getting to achieve whatever it is, whether it's financial freedom or whether it's health related or whether it's for their family. And by doing that, they get so zeroed in and so focused on what they're doing that they forget a couple different things. And prime example, I think it could have been avoided, right? Getting more sleep,
Mm,
right? Getting a little bit more
okay.
downtime,
Okay.
whether that's taking yoga or just meditating. Downtime is as and sleep is just as important as the uptime. And if you ever hear someone that says, I'll sleep when I'm dead, well, that's exactly what's going to happen if you don't
Okay.
take a break,
Yeah.
don't rest, you will end up dead. You have to sleep, you have to rest. It's a requirement in order for you to live longer, to be able to enjoy what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. So you again, I love take your pick of the visual that you need, dear viewer. I'm going with I like the Netflix one. And you just added to that because I said, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. And you're right, not at the moment I can, but you said it was preventable
100%.
or possibly preventable or probably preventable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, or you say 100% preventable, yeah, with lifestyle changes.
Yeah, I think lifestyle changes. I also think just general habits. I think it's one of those things. And again, it's not the big C, right? So we're not talking about cancer. So let's just remove that from the
Yeah,
equation.
yeah,
There is one of those variables to where is it genetic? Is it what I'm eating? Is it the air I'm breathing? Is it the cell? Like there's
yeah,
no real thing unless you can kind of say, well, my parent before me had this and now I have this. Obviously, maybe it came from genetic, right? But in my
yeah.
case, I think it was partly genetic, but also partly lifestyle. Again, I think I was more designed to be running and going all the time, but I was sitting down executing and I was not moving as much as I should have been moving to get my cardio up or just getting away from a digital screen to get out and get some fresh air. Just that little 20-minute, 30-minute walk that I do on a regular basis now could have definitely had changed things back then.
Wow. I listen to podcasts all the time and they always say, there's a disclaimer at the end. This is not medical advice. So I'm going to say this is not medical advice, but it's, it's, speaking of medical advice, that's kind of interesting because if if we were to read out right now medical advice, it would be, be dry and boring and monotone. Whereas you're telling a real story, and this is for me where storytelling, it comes, it lands more deeply. I still, like I said, I'm so stuck on the little Netflix twirling thingy, and that really hits me. And then you say, wait a minute, that's preventable. That's really that's really important there. That's really quite profound. Wow. So there wasn't, so you met up with Hannah, Storyhouse Works. The book is titled Unexpected Gifts, by the way. I can't remember if I mentioned that. Unexpected Gifts. So that doesn't seem like a gift at the time. And yet that's the story you chose to write for this anthology called Unexpected Gifts. So what was the gift that came out of this?
Mhm.
I mean, from all intents and purposes, negative story, negative situation.
Well, I think every without dark there's not light, right? I mean, without black there's not white. So I mean, you have to look at the bipolar situation of, okay, I almost died, and then the title of the book is a plural. It's not a singular gift. Like, what multiple gifts did I get out of this? I would say one of the most profound gifts that I got out of it was, obviously I'm still alive, right? But more
Yeah.
so, I found my better half. I found my anchor, my keystone, my wife, in that situation. I mean, we only knew each other at that point in time, roughly 90 days, if that, maybe 4 months. And I was going to her house when it happened, got to her door, and she looked at me, and I couldn't actually speak at the time. It was all this different turmoil and chaos happening. And got to the hospital, I'm completely knocked out. I have no clue what's going on. I'm underneath the knife at the point in time. And they go to her and they say, look, like, are you his wife? Without hesitating,
No.
she says yes.
Wow.
Because if she was not my wife, then the decision would have been they had to wait for my mother or wait for whoever was a blood relative to me to make the decision whether they can go in and do the surgery. Now, if you know anything about, like, my mom, her getting from point A to point B, and point B is somewhere she never been to before. It's like speaking Dutch to an American for the first time. It is completely scrambled words and letters for her to figure that out. So I probably would have died because she never would have got to the hospital in time. She would probably took like 5 hours to get there. And if my wife
Yeah.
was not there at that time, then I wouldn't have been here. So that's one major gift. In addition to that, it gave me a reset. It gave me an opportunity to kind of say, okay, well, what was I doing right and what was I doing wrong? And how do I do more right and less wrong to amplify what I wanted to achieve without the negative baggage that comes with the extra executing of managing time or not sleeping and just doing everything 100% on my own.
So before then, managing time, not sleeping, doing everything on your own, you only realize those things after the fact, right?
One of those things, you hear about it, it's buzzing, it's buzzing in your
Okay.
ear, but obviously I had people, I was working with people, but at the same time, it's always a perfectionist state of mind, right? I can do it better, so I'll just do it myself. And the reality is
Okay.
kind of like, now I'm more so like, with my team, I have a team of like maybe about 10 to 12 individuals, that I have one person that's my main project manager that I just delegate. So anything that I think I can do myself, first I stop and say, okay, do it yourself one time, record it,
Okay.
document it, create an SOP, then delegate everything else after that. So that's what I do now. I'll do something once myself, document it, and then I'll delegate, like, hey, here's all the notes, here's the things that I did, here's the things that you need to avoid, because I've already been through that. I didn't
Yeah.
spend 20 years trying to do it at scale. I just did it just enough so you know what you need to do, and now you execute, and here's your deadline, and then I move on to the next thing.
Yeah. And it's off your plate, out of your mind, out of
Yeah,
sight,
yeah, I have to kind of remind
mostly.
myself to check back. I mean, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
employees, 2 days go by, 7 days go by, and if you don't, not necessarily put your thumb on their back, but if you don't say, hey guys, where's this thing that we talked about last week, and
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
let them know that you're still thinking about it, obviously you'll get it eventually, but you want to get it on time.
Wow. Wow. I want to read just because I keep talking about the visual. I got the book here, Unexpected Gifts. It's beautiful cover. You had some lines in there. I want to move a little to the writing. So it is 5 pages long. One, two, three, four, right? Or is it six? No, start on half the page. One, two, three, four, five. That's it. So the point I'd like to make here is that you totally had me in your story. I was in it. I was there with you. I was here because you had these visuals. You said here, within minutes, I was drenched in sweat and stumbling like a drunk extra in a zombie apocalypse flick, right? If anybody's seen a zombie apocalypse flick, they know exactly what you're talking about. That's so well done. And then here, this is one of my favorites. I gripped the edge of the tub like it owed me money. It takes a second to think like, wait a minute, it's a tub owed me money. What? But then you get like the intensity, like it owed me money. It's just, I really appreciate your writing essay.
Definitely appreciate that. And it took time. It's not, I don't want anyone to think that writing with that level of definition or dark humor is something that just, because you could be a very humorous individual, but writing that humor takes way longer than just having a conversation and executing a punchline. It has
Yeah.
to be like not necessarily scripted, but it has to be more like a sculpture. You have to kind of work at it and work at it until it reveals itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, there's an old Winston Churchill quote, something like, I'm sorry I didn't write a, sh- a shorter letter. I didn't have time, so I wrote a longer letter.
Mhm.
Right? And so the shorter is more difficult because it's more editing, it's more cutting. So speaking of which, how was it working together with Hannah Huber and her Storyworks team of editors? So you submitted your piece and then you got some editing feedback. How did that go?
So before we even got to that phase, I think the beautiful aspect of what they've done is kind of like the way I think, like the SOPs, the structure. What am I looking for? So they pretty much gave us the guidelines, the outline of what they expect. And this is kind of something that I think people should really listen to and take heed to. If you have a spectrum, let's say 1,500 words to 3,000 words, stick to the lower end of that. Try to
Okay.
fit whatever you can in the lower end versus that. Because again, people say, "Oh, I got 3,000 words. I can max it out." You get to 3,000 words, and then your story's
Yeah.
still not done. You're like, "I still need to write more." You end up at 3,500 words. You can write all that in half of that. So why don't you aim for the 1,500, and then if you need to put a little bit of fluff to cross over to 1,500, that's fine. Then you can kind of add the things that you're reading, like the little bit of ad libs, a little bit of comedy in there to kind of give it a little bit of fluff. But the storyline is very distinct, is very short, is very quick. And what I've learned about education or entertainment and education mixed together is that you have to hook the person, you have to be able to tell a story, and you have to pull into the psyche. So for me, it's almost easier for me to, instead of going love or going sad and sappy, to go smart ass or dark humor because I do that naturally. So then writing it
Yeah.
becomes easier for me. So if you're more of a sad or romantic person, feed into that. Like make that person read and fall in love with the story. Make that person read, put the book down and wipe their eyes. They'll be more in tune to read. So again, what they gave me was such a great outline. They even told us like
Okay.
what commas to use, right? So by default, I
Right.
just followed the script and I filled it in, stayed on the low end. And so when it came to editing, the editing wasn't that bad on my hand because again, I followed what they said. And in between that gray area, you can write whatever you want to write as long as you follow their script. You can write anything, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Wow. And the guidelines and the word count and stuff. So you shot for the lower end, and then you got the Google Doc back with some red marks and comments and stuff. And how did that go? Did
I always say you have to when it comes down to editors, and if you're dealing with like publications, if you're dealing with publishing houses, you have to know that. And there's two folds to this, right? One, by default, you may think you are the perfect writer, the perfect everything. In reality, you're not. There's nothing
yeah,
that's going to be perfect, right? So the editor is doing their job. On the other hand, you
yeah,
also have to think about, and I'm not saying that this is what happened in our case, but I've dealt with it before. Some editors are going to say something just because they're paid to say something. Even if you write it
okay,
100% perfect, they're going to have to mark something. They're not going to just admit, oh, everything's good with that one. Then why do we
yeah,
need this editor? Like that's not job
yeah,
security at that point, right? So always keep in mind that something is going to come back. It could be a comma, it can be the way you phrase a sentence. It's the same exact sentence. The structure just changed. The same exact wording, but maybe they'll substitute one word with another. Be okay with that as long as your incomplete story still gets the same exact emotion from the reader. That's what you're going for. You're not going for fighting for the actual word that you wanted in the actual
Okay.
story.
Yeah. Your story is quite personal, and it could be something that you would only tell a handful of people, but you chose to share this
Yeah,
rather publicly. How was that a decision at all that you had to make, or just wasn't an issue for you?
I think it was all part of my rebrand because before my wife became my wife, and I was going through the recovery stage, and the recovery stage took about 12 to 18 months. And in that time, she was like, okay, now you
Wow.
survived. You're still alive. You're on the road to recovery. What are you going to do differently now? Like, this is the opportunity for you. And this is her word. This is the opportunity for you to rebrand yourself the way you've been branding companies for the past 20 years. And I had to stop and
Wow.
think about that. I was like, damn, first of all, I got to marry you, right? Just for saying that and make that statement that you said 100% official. And then secondly to that, I was like, what does rebranding look like for someone that was the man behind the curtain? Well, then I have to come in front of the curtain. And by becoming in front of the curtain, you have to kind of do it like a comedian. You have to think that you're on stage, everybody in the audience is naked, and I'm naked on the stage, and everyone is just there. Just let it out. And if everyone's naked, then there's no embarrassment, right? Everyone is naked. Everyone is on the same exact accord. So for me, it's just being completely transparent, being open about it, then allow someone else to do the same thing because they may hold it in. And by holding it in, they may end up in a negative road because they're not expressing themselves and they're not giving back to the community of people that may be looking up to them that wants that inspiration and wants that insight.
Wow. One of my questions for you is, do you have any advice for authors thinking of joining any anthology or one of Storyhouse Works feature anthologies? But you've just been you've just been delivering that left and right for the past several minutes. So unless you have any final words for potential authors looking to submit to a anthology, but you've given so much already.
Now, I would just say, I think if it's a first time author, you have to get off the bandwagon of writing the perfect story. And I think the easiest way is to go into anthologies because now you have an opportunity not only to see where you stack up against other authors, but now you're also in a community of other authors. So where you could have communication and bounce ideas. I think from the day that you and I met, we've had so many conversations and dialogues and
Yeah.
thought processes and passing information back and forth that's completely priceless because we went into that situation being open-minded. So being a stay-at-home author in the closet with the doors closed and the candle light and writing everything by yourself doesn't do you any service at all. You have to kind of get
Yeah.
out there and shake hands and meet more people that are more like you than you may imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So since this book has been published and you publicly published this piece, has anything changed, or any feedback you have since it's been out? Not, I'm not talking about the fan mail and the constant paparazzi out your front door, not that, but other than that, fandom and stardom. How is this contributing to this and being a part of this?
Well, I think for my storyline, considering that, I was in the US for a majority of my life and now I'm in the Netherlands, it gave me an opportunity to meet more like-minded people in a completely different culture. Because again, I could have just been at home,
Right.
but if I didn't step out my house to go to that event, going to that event with intent, and then responding to the email with intent, you and I would not be having this conversation right now. Everything
Yeah.
needs to have that foresight to where, yes, you may get gold at the end of the actual rainbow, but the first thing you have to do is spot the rainbow and know that's a rainbow. For me, I knew it was a rainbow the second that I saw it. I was like, okay,
Okay.
everyone in this room should at least speak some kind of language like I do. I may not be an editor, but there should be other writers, there should be other creatives. And if I don't make it and be best friends with everyone, at the bare minimum, I should walk away with one or two or three or four people which I've achieved. So now that those people are in my community, like yourself, it gives me opportunity now to bounce ideas, to communicate, and say, hey, I want to write a book. Do you want to be part of it? Hey, I have this, we was talking about art. I was like, here's my art. What do you think? It just gives you an opportunity to spread that network from being centralized to being more global a lot quicker.
You mentioned art, and behind you is art, and because I know you a bit, do you think that from your glitch that this is, I mean, I think the glitch was one of the first dominoes that fell, that led you even to moving to the Netherlands, which is where we both are now. To Do you think that has some effect with of you creating art now, like the art behind you?
Yeah, I think it's, growing up, I've always did graffiti or did art as a kid. And then when I got into like middle school and high school, I started doing graffiti because I grew up in New York. So like now, like circling back, it's kind of like when you think about you as an adolescent or as a kid, whatever you did in that period of time that you love doing, that you still think about today, that you're not doing, is
Yeah.
probably one of the reasons why I almost died. Because again, if I get to the point to where I'm flustered that day, if I dealt with clients, or if I hit a roadblock, or if I hit like a digital glitch in something that we're building and developing, I can then stop at that time or stop later on that day and then go into art. So art becomes more like my meditation space. Now, obviously, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about monetizing it, scaling, and all those things because I'm a business individual, but I'm doing something that I love and something that I'm passionate and something that, technically speaking, it's an opportunity for me just to express myself. Whether someone likes it or don't like it, it doesn't really matter. I'm just expressing myself, and I'm giving my mind a different thing to think about versus thinking about the numbers or thinking about the strategy.
Wow. You know that you put it again in different words than I would use, which is what I love about you. You have a different angle on things. Just express yourself, and not the monetization strategy of the marketing plan or rah, rah, rah. But you're doing this. Sometimes I'll say about my own books, I'll say, yeah, you're reading it. Yeah, that's great. I'm writing these for me. This is really for me. And yeah, lucky you get to read one. But your art, if it's really something, for you, you're doing it to express yourself. That's key, because that then we get into big stuff like meaning and purpose and joy. Those big old words like that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I
Wow.
think
I
the
love it.
bottom line is it's. I always say individuals that are actors are doing something so natural to where people don't realize it. Like they're leaving behind a legacy to where their great grandkids could then go and watch that movie or go to YouTube and hear
Yeah.
their voices and
Yeah.
see them. So for us as creators or media individuals, podcasting does the same thing. Creating art does the same thing. Essentially, we're creating all these different assets, not necessarily for monetization, but for the down pipeline of generations to come. Imagine
Yeah.
100 years from now, your great grandkids gets to listen to this video and see your mannerisms,
Yeah.
mentality, look at your background, see the type of art that you had in your background, and kind of be like, well, I love San Francisco. I live in San Francisco. Oh my God, my great grandfather had pictures of San. It just this whole tie-in to where our generation, we miss that. We don't have that. Like we can't go back in time and bring those people back to ask them the questions and see who are we really like.
Wow. You're right. What we're doing right now. And again, I'm just going to give a shout out to in-person connection. You and I met in person. Although I think we met first in person. Did we meet first in person before that event? I can't remember now.
Oh,
No.
no, we actually
Was that
met.
the very first time at this event?
It was Penny because I mean I met Penny before I met you,
That's right.
and
That's
then
right.
she was just like, "You got to meet Bradley," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
That's
And you
right.
spoke at the event as well, and then that connection happened, and then you and I were so much alike with everything we were doing, and then
Yeah.
you said you did like 30 something books, and I was just like, "Oh wow!" I was just like, so it
Yeah.
was just a great feeling to find someone that not necessarily an overachiever like I am, but not overly ambitious like I am, but at the same time just happy to do what you're doing every day, day in
Yeah.
and day.
Yeah. Yeah. This whole anthology process has inspired me as well. I would like to, I've wanted to do an anthology for years, and I've never really done it. And this whole process, and also working with you, and I really like doing these interviews, it's inspired me to do anthology as well. So I'm looking forward to that. So it's another benefit from this whole process.
Yeah, yeah. I would just like to say, thank you to Hannah. I just think
Yeah.
it's one thing to become a publisher, but it's another thing to do what they're doing at scale. You're not just dealing with
Yeah.
one person, you're dealing with double digits, right? You're dealing with different
Yeah.
personalities, you're dealing with different writing styles. And how do you cohesively bring that together as an
Yeah.
individual? If you're really good with your writing, you may think other people's writing may not blend with yours. You may bump heads with that other author. So for her to step into that space in the middle and become like the octopus with all the tentacles and bring everything in, you
Yeah.
definitely commend her for such an achievement, more so than any.
Yeah.
And this is not just her first book. You're talking about volumes of this to come.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right to shout that out, because like I said, I've written 39 books, but they're all me. It's just me. I don't need to rely on anybody. I don't have to wait on anybody. No editors, no guidelines, no whatever. I do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. Great. Lucky me. But this anthology idea, like what you say Hannah Huber's doing, and she's got the editors and the deadlines and the guidelines and the documents and the uploads and the connection and the it's really something. So thank you, Hannah. Because without Hannah, we wouldn't be talking. So a big shout out to Hannah Huber. If you want to know more about this particular book, go to storyhouseworks.com/unexpected gifts. And on her site, on that site somewhere, there's going to be something about, I don't know if it's public yet, but with the upcoming anthologies, I just know that she's planning on it. So get in touch with Hannah and Storyhouse Works if you think what we're doing here is something exciting that you, dear viewer, is thinking about. Or I don't know, maybe just go the whole distance and organize your own anthology. It's a lot of work. Hey, and I haven't done it, so it's inspired me to do it, but now I got to do it.
Yeah, but I think for you, it's way easier than someone coming in cold turkey, right? You didn't write one, you didn't write 10, you didn't write 20. You wrote almost 40 books. So
Yeah,
essentially, you've ironed out the wrinkles to where you know what you want this book to be versus someone that's just trying to figure out what that first book is even going to be, right? It's
yeah,
two different
yeah,
train of
yeah.
thoughts.
You're right. You're right. Okay. I am thankful. One of the benefits of a glitch in your code was that we got to meet up, SA. So I am thankful for that, and thankful for you for your time today and being a part of this anthology. And thanks for having a chat.
Well, the pleasure was mine, and thanks for having me.